Hi, chat. This is Graph Builder's office hours. Today we've got Yash. I'm going to let people filter in before we get going here. And we are actually also streaming on X, on Graph Devs, which if you guys are not subscribed to Graph Devs, that is a new Twitter for developers, and specifically Twitter for developers in the Graph ecosystem. And then we're also streaming to the Graph's YouTube. We're trying to get more views on what the Graph developers are doing any given day and help those that want to get into the Graph ecosystem and understand development. If you could introduce yourself, I keep on seeing more and more people filter in the chat, which is awesome. If you could introduce yourself a little bit about yourself and how you got going with the Graph.
Yes, perfect. So, as I previously said, I work as the support engineer at Azure, and how I got here is basically during the time I met the Graph team at ETH India 2022, and I hung out with a bunch of people, and that's when I decided this is where I want to work. So, through a lot of contributions that I did for the Graph through blogs, tutorials, giving out the workshops about subgraphs in Vietnam, and a lot of things I've done. And so I got through the interview with Simone from Azure referred me, and here I am. So living the dream, can't complain. So life's amazing.
Awesome. Yeah, when we first met, the energy you had coming on the team, man, was awesome and still is. I'm really, really happy that you're on the team helping out people in comms all the time and building alongside them. It's really exciting. So for today's workshop, could you give people a preview of what you're going to be going over today?
Yes, perfect. So we as a support team, what we do is we see a lot of issues over Discord, Telegram, and many other social platforms that we have. So let's say forum and Reddit. So what we do is basically our job is to monitor all of these channels and help devs with their all subgraph issues and technicalities. So today I am going to showcase some of the errors that can be fixed by your end directly without you have to reach out to us, because we have a good response time, but if it's something that can be solved on your side, that would be really awesome. So I would really like to showcase some of the errors and issues that users commonly face and how you can knock those out and solve those. So yeah. So again, welcome everyone. Today we'll be looking at how to fix the most common subgraph errors, and this is Graph Builders of Office Hours 52. So yeah, let's get started. Okay, so first and foremost, errors what we see in Discord is getting this particular error called no network found on chain Ethereum, or basically let's say your no network base testnet found on chain Ethereum. So what this means is, so suppose you're trying to deploy for a chain, let's say Arbitrum or any new chain that is coming up and has been supported by the Graph, but you get this particular error message. So that is basically because of the Graph CLI version, which keeps on getting updated very frequently because we integrate a lot of chains, we come up with a lot of new features. So that's why we have Graph CLI continuously updating. So what we always suggest is you always make sure you are on the latest Graph CLI version. So here it is. So and make sure the Graph CLI is installed globally and not locally, and make sure you're using the latest version. So basically what you're supposed to do is when you do install the Graph CLI globally, you should always check for the version which is Graph-V, and it should give you the latest version. So let's say I'll just go here and show you what that is. NPM. Yep. So here, as you can see, the latest version is 0.80.1. So when you do Graph-V, you are supposed to see this version, and that should solve your error regarding to no network found or regarding that. And one more thing to notice here is that your node versions should always be greater than 18 or 20, because the Graph CLI's latest version are compatible with those versions. If you have 16, this won't work. So make sure you always have the version 18 and 20 in order to use the latest graph CLI. Right. Next up, we have, so we get this question a lot, like how can you delete a particular subgraph that you have maybe on Studio or maybe on the decentralized network that we have. So the short answer is you can't delete your subgraph. So first we'll talk about the Studio, how the subgraph management happens on the Studio. So when you create a subgraph on Studio, we have different stages in which the subgraphs are. So when you create a basic one which is not deployed or not published, it will be in the draft stage. And so you can always rename it if you are not going to use it, or if you want to maybe, let's say if you want to remove it, you can't. So you can just rename it, saying maybe add a suffix saying that, okay, should not be used or removed or something. Now, coming to the network part. So as you know, the graph network is on the Arbitrum network. So subgraphs are published to the Arbitrum, which are published as an NFT. So what you can do is you cannot delete, but you can deprecate your particular subgraph. So for this, what you have to do is basically we have a nice documentation here on how to do that. So let me just show you that real quick. So as you can see here, visit the contact address for mainnet subgraphs and Arbitrum 1. So as now most of the subgraphs are on Arbitrum 1, which is the graph network L2. So if I click on here, you can see the particular contact address on which the subgraphs are. And here we have to go and call the deprecate subgraph function. And here what you have to do is enter the subgraph ID of your particular subgraph that you want to deprecate, and your subgraph cannot be used by anyone. So let me show you one more example. I just get lost in the PPTs. Oh my god, where is it? Okay, yeah. Found. So okay, let me go here and copy this particular one, and let's see. So this is one of the subgraphs NFTs which I own. So in order to deprecate that, I just have to use this token ID. So again, one thing to notice here is do not confuse the subgraph ID with the token ID, because we have another thing known as subgraph ID, which is the unique identifier of your subgraph. So let me show you that real quick as well. Okay. Yeah, so let me see one that is published. Yeah. So this is one of the subgraphs that is published to the network, which is called IOTEX testnet. And yeah. So this is one of the subgraph ID, which is a hexadecimal number, which is alphanumeric. And so do not make the mistake of using this particular subgraph ID to deprecate. So what will happen is if you do this particular thing, it will show you that it asks for the uint ID, and this is not a uint. So always make sure you go and use the token ID of your particular subgraph that you do not want to use or maybe deprecate. So yeah, this is one of the most common issues that usually people ask. Now, going ahead, we have another one called the indexing statuses. So let me give you some context here what happens. So we have the API node called the index node, where you can see this status of your particular subgraph. What you have to do is just enter your particular QM hash, which is the deployment ID, and you will get all of the stats related to your particular subgraph. So let me show you this with a quick example. And okay. So here I have that ready. So I use Hasura as the cloud endpoint and as the cloud environment. So this is the GraphQL endpoint that we have publicly available and you can use, which is api.thegraph.com index node. And here I have this particular query, which is the indexing statuses. And with the subgraphs, you just have to enter your particular deployment ID, and then you can get a lot of details regarding is it synced, how is the health, what's the entity count, And so all these things are basically, you can have an overview of what your particular subgraph is on. So if I just hit play here, you can see that this is the subgraph hash. The synced is true, which means it is 100% synced. Then the entity count is 9. There are no errors. And so these three are the ones that we look at the most from the support standpoint. So we have to check what is the earliest block from which the subgraph is indexing. So let's say if you have deployed a smart contract, so what we do is basically it is recommended to give that block number in which your contract is deployed as the start block. So here we can even check that this is the start block, this is the latest block, and the chain head block. So what we have to always we can check here is that latest block is always close to or in sync with the chain head block, because that is how the graph node syncs particular blockchain and the blocks. And just to give you a little context here, the graph node syncs syncs or looks for particular blocks every 500 milliseconds. So it is the continuous syncing process that should happen. So if I again click on play button, you can see that the chain head block will increase along with the latest block. So you can see that this is a healthy subgraph and it is continuously indexing that particular smart contract or whatever they're indexing. So this is one of the great ways of checking what your subgraph status is. So make sure you use this before reaching out or just to take a look at what is happening around. Okay. Another thing that we have is these two tools. I cannot put it in the word because these two are the major, I would say, the problem solvers for most of the subgraph developers that there are. So one is called OkraDoxyz and another one is Miniscan. So first, let me show you what is OkraDoxyz. So let us go here and check it out. Oh yeah, let me just. So yeah, so this is a website called okgraph.xyz. And what you have to do again is just put in your deployment ID. So I have a test deployment ID, and if I put enter, you can see here that this is the ID, the network which it is indexing, the health is good, it is not synced because you can see the start block is this one, something like 10 million, then synced is 12 million, and the latest is 20 million. So so you can see here that it is still 8 million blocks behind, so the synced is not true. And this is the amount of entities that the subgraph has and how much it has made progress. So this is a great tool for you to look at. And what amazing thing about this is this refreshes every 30 seconds. So it will continuously look for the syncing processes. And these are some of the amazing links that you can look at for any particular errors. So let me just go to one of the API first. So if I click on API here, what it will do is it will take us to the query URL that we use, and you can see all of the query that you can do, what is the subgraph about, and you can do all sort of, let's say, queries that you want to do. So here, so I see we have an error of failure entities from store, internal error resolving. Okay. Of course, this is a live event, so these things happen all the time. Okay. So basically what the gist is, with this API, you can check all of the queries, all of the entities that you can query and see the results for yourself, like what you want. Another thing that we have is amazing is that this logs. So let's say if you are not the owner of a particular subgraph, you do not have access to these logs, right? So let's say you are using someone else's subgraph from the Explorer, which is already published. You cannot access the logs as you are not the owner. So, but if you are owner, you directly have, I'll show you just here quickly, this logs tab, which has all the errors, warnings, info, and debugging information. But if you are not the owner of that particular subgraph, you can always click on these. You can use OkraDoxyz to check the logs of any particular subgraph that you want to do. So for example, here again, we have taken this one, and for the logs I've clicked here, and this is the link that particularly opens. So again, you can see the endpoint that we query to get the logs is the explorer dash graphql, which is again the api.graph.com. So if I hit play over here, you can see all of these errors with the timestamp and text. So you can see the timestamp here is 22nd of August, which is today, and it is 2 output tokens has invalid swaps. So users can directly know from their end like what the issue is, and they can fix it on their end without again reaching out to us. So this is one of an amazing tool, which is OKGraph. Another tool which is amazing is Miniscan. So this is a simple smart contract explorer. So this comes into play a lot where you have a contract deployed to a particular network, and you want to get all the details regarding that particular smart contract. So let's say when during init, when you init a subgraph using graph init, many a times, even if the contract is verified, you are not able, the Etherscan or it does not. So what happens is when you create a subgraph using graph init, it automatically fetches the ABI and the start block and the contract name. But for some reason, if the contract calls fail, they do not fetch that. So in order to get the ABIs and the start blocks, this is an excellent tool for you to go ahead and take a look at. So here you can get the start block directly. Here you can check the ABI and add it manually. So yeah, so this is the ABI that we get. So this is a pretty amazing tool for you to visualize. And here even you can see the events that the particular smart contract has. So we have an approval, transfer, deposit, withdrawal. So you get the idea, right? So you can get all kind of information from this particular tool. So yeah, I cannot emphasize this enough. So make use of these two tools a lot, which is OKGraph and Miniscan. They will make your life so much easier. All right, so let us go to the next one. Awesome. So from here it will get a little more. So after you deploy, after you code in your subgraph, it gives you a nice boilerplate scaffolded code for your particular project. And sometimes the types conversion do not happen because the graph uses assembly script, which is a stricter TypeScript. So for that, what you have to do is you have to manually do some customizations. So this is where this error comes a lot for people. So which is, so here in the first example, you can see that a struct is not assignable to an array or bytes. So, and this is the entity or the line that cannot be assigned. So what you can do is you can use the type conversion references that we have in our documentation. Again, we'll look at, this is another one, which is bytes is not assignable to array. And here we again have similar errors. So these are the errors that users frequently face on what to do. So the solution is pretty simple. What you have to do is just make use of this part of documentation called type conversion references. Here you can see the source of the entity and the destination that you want to have it to. So let's say if you want it from big to big decimal. So you just have to do is dot to big decimal. So this is a lifesaver for all of the transmissions that you have to do inside your particular for the data types that you are dealing with. So this covers all the data types that usually people use. So here definitely make use of this particular type conversion references table that will make your life much easier for this particular issue that you will face. Again, I want to here stress on the use of documentation, because many a times what we as a support team see under the on the background is basically there are many things that users are not aware of, which we already have in the documentation. So what you can do is just basically search anything that you want to do here, and it will bring out all the results that we have. So let's say we have a testing framework called Matchstick. You can use that, but I'm not sure like how many people are aware of these particular things. So first thing I would really like to tell everyone is make use of documentation as much as possible, because most of your answers will be solved from the documentation itself, and you won't need to like raise it anywhere. So yeah, that's one thing. Now let's go to another one. Awesome. Yeah. So this one is my favorite. So how to look at a particular schema and a manifest. So if you are building a subgraph from your end, you basically know what you're dealing with, right? So you know what will be the contact you will be indexing, what the schema you want, and what the customizations or what the mappings you will have. But let's say if you want to look up at any other subgraph schema which the code is not available, or let's say the repo is private or something, as the graph is decentralized protocol and all of this is uploaded to the IPFS, you, you can just use the QM hash to get the subgraph manifest or a schema of any subgraph that you want. So for this, the step is pretty simple. What you have to do is, okay, let this just load. Yeah. So again, you have to make use of this particular endpoint called api.graph.com/IPFS and cat with the particular deployment ID that you have. What this will do is this will give you a nice schema of of any particular subgraph that you wish to see. So for example, we have here, so let us check live one out here. Oh, I have here one ready. So let's say this is one of the deployment IDs. And here you can see the data source, and this is the exact manifest that this particular subgraph has. So even though you don't have the access to code or anything, you can always check what kind of subgraph is this. And so you can see this is like a really good subgraph with a lot of data sources and a lot of entities here. So yeah, and again, to look at the schema, what you have to do is just look for a schema in this particular file. So I'll just do this one. Yeah. So if I search schema over here, you can see there is a file called schema file. And again, we have a deployment ID. I mean the QM hash. So now what you can do is again, copy this particular QM hash. And if you paste it over here, you will see the schema for this particular subgraph. So yeah, that's pretty amazing, right? So you can have access to the schemas, the mapping, not the mappings, the schemas and the manifest of any subgraph that you wish to check. And you can see how well they are developed, how exactly it is working under the hood. So this is really exciting thing to have. So I'll be sharing, I think we'll be sharing all those links later on. So no worries, but yeah, do make sure you use these to the fullest capacity. So yeah. Now going on to the next one. Let's see. Better error messages. Okay, there is an image here. I'm not sure why is it not loading. Let me just refresh maybe. Yeah. Yeah, okay, here it is. So here, whenever you do the commands like graph build, graph codegen, it directly creates the folders for you with the build and generated. And when you deploy, then you get to know what the errors are. But this is a great way to already know before you deploy a subgraph to the studio or to the network. So I'll show you this live with example here. So this is my code. Oh my God, I'm not supposed to okay, I think I'm not able to open VS Code here for some reason. Okay, no worries. So what basically supposed to do is use this particular command called debug equal to graph-cli :*graph build. What this will do is it will build your particular subgraph, and if there are any errors, it will directly tell you on which line what exactly is the error. So this will give you a insight on where as to you need to make changes to your subgraph or make the resolution for your particular error, so that you won't deploy and then check what the error is. So then you have to keep on deploying. So this is a great way to see the error messages. So again, it is debug equal to graph-cli and star space graph build. You can also do this with graph code gen and graph deploy too. So you can get all of the error messages that you see in the graph CLI using this particular tool, which is great. I use this a lot to check what the issues might be. And if it's not, it will directly compile and it will directly build and there will be no error. So you will get the clear messages then there itself. So it is a great way to check your particular subgraph and how to go about it. Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. So this is another issue that we see a lot. Let me just zoom in this a little bit, which says that entity missing for non-nullable field, and it gives you the field which is non-nullable, which has the missing entity with missing field, and for which entity it is. So here, as you can see, it is missing value for non-nullable field virtual shares, and the entity name is pool. So, for example, I'll just give you insight into what exactly is happening and how this can be resolved. So, first and foremost, always check the schema of this particular entity. So, here, as you can see, the entity name is pool and the field is virtual shares. So, for example, you can see here that we have an entity and it is the field is virtual shares. And you can see here it has the type called big int and this exclamation mark we have in front. So what the exclamation mark means is this field is non-nullable, which means you have to give it a value, otherwise it will throw out an error. So if you don't want to make it non-nullable, you can just remove the exclamation mark. So but in this case, if you want to make it non-nullable, it will have to give a value, but the graph node was not able to get it because it was not set before saving the entity. So what you can do here is basically go into your mapping and always check for that particular field where it sets your particular entity or the field. And here, if you check that it should set some value before you save that entity. So here, as you can see, pool.virtual is saving this particular value and then it is saving. So that's how it will be resolved. We have to ensure that virtual shares is set to some value. So, and this one is coming from the smart contract itself. But if not, you can always go and set a default value too. So just to you will always have something as the value and it will not throw the error of missing value. So this is something that users face a lot as well, which is the missing value. So the resolution is very simple. Always check for the mapping and check if it is set correctly before the entity has been saved. All right. And again, as you can see here, if it is not available from the event, you can set it to a default value. Or if you want to make it non-nullable, you can do that too. Just adjust your schema and change from begin to begin with removing the exclamation. So yeah, this is like pretty sweet tool or thing that you should know. Next up, we have all right. So these were like many of the most common issues that we see on the backend that we have, and we try to solve them, give them the documentation references and everything from our end to solve. And there are some issues which need fix from our end, and that will be always be we are always there to help you out with those. But yeah, let's do a TLDR of this is you can use a matchstick for your particular testing of subgraph. Personally, I haven't used much of this because this has some limitations when it comes to the system compatibilities. So that's why I haven't used it much. Another thing is again use the indexing statuses API, which I showed, and use the OKGraph a lot to make your life easier. Then again, check the subgraph is check subgraph is syncing even if it is showing field on Studio. So as I mentioned, when you deploy to the Studio, you can access the logs and check exactly the error or whatever info debug, whatever you have in there, and you can fix it by yourself because we have a developer experience in such a way that all of the errors are clearly stated So you don't have to think about, okay, what fix do I have to make? So even with the issues that I show, missing value. So it makes sense, right? The value is missing in this particular entity. So what we do is go and check if it has been set or not. So I think the error messages are pretty clear to solve these questions. So make sure you read those and apply the fixes. Another gold mine is search the error on Discord. So as a lot of we have a big community of users who develop subgraph regularly and faces issues with anything that they have a lot. So what I do personally is this. So let's me go to Discord once. So as this developer has already faced this, you can directly search in our Discord and you can see what resolution we gave them and take care of it by yourself. So you don't have to even tag us or uh, so I'll just go here and so let's type in the missing value error. Missing value, and if I hit enter here, all the messages that has the same reported the error. So as you can see, missing value for non-nullable field. Then this person also like reported that missing value. Then again, we have a lot of missing values. The people. So as you can see, here you can see that people are continuously seeing these errors, missing value, then again missing value. So what you can do is just click on any one of this. So let's just click on this one, and it will take you to that message, and you can just see what is the resolution. And we have a lot of support team, active mods, and other subgraph guardians who have already must have answered to that question. If not, you can always ask, but it is better to look here first, just to get the idea of what exactly the issue someone has already faced and what the resolution the team has given them. So make sure you use this a lot. I personally do this because many times errors are just constantly repeated, and I just refer these particular resolutions that we have already did and tell them to the next person who is facing it. But it would be it would be better if you could do this on your end and just check for the resolution by yourself. So yeah, do make use of this a lot in your subgraph development journey. And again, Discord and Zendesk is the best to contact us. Of course, we are always there on all the platforms. So you can always tag us. And on Discord, it's me, Mitch, Jerry, and Shias. We are the support team members, and we are covering all the time zones. So you have a quick resolution time before before you are fed up with the issue or you are burnt out. So we are always there to help. So make sure you if any of the methods that I've shown do not work for you, you can always put it on Discord for us, and we'll reply to you quickly as soon as possible. And again, the second last thing is make use of the best practices. So Marcus has written a really awesome documentation on best practices of how to use subgraphs. So let me just show you that over here. So it is in the cookbook section, and if you scroll down, you can see the subgraph best practice. And we have written like 4 subgraph best practices. So first one is pruning. So what this basically means is we don't have to keep the entire historical data of the entities, and it will be synced much faster with this pruning. So how this is used is in your manifest, you just have to write index or hints and prune auto. What this will do is this will prune your subgraph, which will by that I mean it will cut your particular entities and it will sync faster for some particular time. And one drawback of using this is you cannot use the time travel queries. So what are time travel queries is basically when you use the block constraint in your query, it will not work if the subgraph has the prune auto feature. So make sure if you want to use that particular block constraint, you should remove this and again redeploy. So this is one thing. Another we have is using the derived from. So this comes from the one-to-one relationships that we have. So we don't. So let's say if we want to take one entity from another field, so we don't take the entire entity, we just take that particular field. This is where the derive from directive comes into the picture. And so here for an example, you can see that for the comments, we get a comment array and it is derived from the field post. So there is another entity somewhere which has the field post in it, and it will fetch comments from there. So in this way, you don't have to fetch the entire entity and just fetch your particular field that you're looking for. So we have, as I mentioned, example use cases you can always look at and take a reference if you are developing with any of these things. The third one is improving the indexing and querying performance. So as you know, your subgraph is being indexed by hundreds of nodes globally. And to increase the syncing speed or the indexing speed, we recommend this practice, which is having the ID as bytes and not the normal regular ID. So what I mean by that is, here, as you can see, the ID, this should be always bytes, and it should not be with the ID, which is necessarily a string. What this does is this will make your syncing speed slower because this requires much more space. And so for quicker, faster syncing and faster response times, you should always make use of bytes. So here you can see it significantly improves the indexing speed. Again, all of this, everything is in our documentation, as I mentioned. So make sure you make the best use of the documentation. And the last one is improve the indexing by avoiding the ETH calls. So basically the ETH calls are which you directly do to the contract with the try methods. And what this does is this slows down the syncing speed of your subgraph. So instead of this, what you can do is use the declared ETH calls. Let me just check if we have it over here. Reducing load time. Add. Okay, let me just check if it is in the declared ETH call. Here it is. So here, what you can do is declared ETH calls. Basically, they are similar to ETH calls, but they will improve your syncing speed. So here you can see that it requires this spec version of the subgraph to be greater than or equal to 1.2.0. So make sure you do all the compatibilities and check all the versions continuously to make sure your subgraph is in full health and just you have a smoother subgraph development experience. So yeah, this is, I think, all I have for now. So yeah, any questions? I would be happy to answer.
Yash, that was awesome, man. I really just want to thank you for that. Was that? I mean, the list of both high level, medium level, and low level error corrections that you're able to provide. I remember very much so using a lot of those fixes, and I also learned that new one, the ability to check out the schema. I didn't even know it was possible. So that was really cool. So thank you for sharing that. So yeah, if there's any questions out there, feel free to drop them in the chat. But right now, Yash and I are going to chat for a little bit, just hang out and have a good rest of our day. So yeah, Yash, I wanted to ask you. You right now are working you're working with 3 other teammates, and you are also working under Mickey, who's your manager, right? Would you say any of the teammates you're working with are like they're becoming more specialized into one type of error or one type of support, or you guys are more generalist across the board? Would you see a certain problem and say, oh, this is more of a Mitch. Mitch has got this one, or is this is more for Yash, I've got this one. Is there anything that's coming in terms of patterning with the team right now?
So basically, I think across the team, what we have is everyone has the skill set to solve all of the problems that we have. And currently, there's nothing coming on top of my head that this is Mitch's problem or this is Shia's problem. But yeah, I think we have pretty much cover everything. And even we face some issues, we directly discuss internally, and someone jumps in from the team. Okay, I don't know this, and then Jerry comes in. Okay, I know this. I'll just solve this quickly. So that's how we work internally too. So we have the users will always have something as a feedback or something.
Awesome. Yeah. Shout out to Jerry too. Jerry was there pretty much as I was joining the team a while ago, and he's always been in the ecosystem. Great. Love Jerry. Seeing a question, when are best practices for transaction receipts? That's a good question.
Yeah. So
Wait,
basically, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
so I'm working right now on best practices 5 through 8, just letting you guys know. So that'll be coming out hopefully in the next few months, and I will consider Chittibum looking at transaction receipts to add that to 5 to 8.
Currently, the way to do that is adding the receipt :true in your schema. So it will directly get you the transaction receipts too. So again, everything I'll just share in the document. Where can I share the link?
And then also have another question in the chat. Is there a link to that lookup thing? I missed it, unfortunately.
Just a sec.
The schema. Yeah, you were talking. I believe that question, Mac, is for the schema lookup.
Yeah. So this is the link for the transaction receipts in event handlers and how to use those. So if you have seen that everything happens just based on your deployment ID. So there is like, so if you have been seeing that why we always ask for the deployment ID is based this particular thing, because we get to know everything about your subgraph with just your deployment ID. So always when you try to again come up with any new errors, or if you have some issue with the subgraph, always share the deployment ID with that so we can take a look. So we don't have to ask you every time. So this is just I think little request to everyone if you are facing it.
I was getting the manifest for a very long time. I just didn't go that extra next step to actually get the schema in there. So that's awesome. And that makes perfect sense.
For getting the schema now, what you have to do is just search for schema, and it will again have a QM hash, and copy that and put it again in the link above, and it will take you to the schema of that particular subgraph.
Another question I was wondering for you, I know that you're going to more events and you're getting more one-on-one with builders in person. I'm curious for you personally, what are some of the projects that you've seen in some of these hackathons that are the most interesting to you? Maybe not like one project, but more just like a category of projects that always excites you when they're building with the graph.
Right. So what I've mostly seen the graph being used for are the DeFi applications, because they continuously need the data from the smart contracts. So that really excites me with the DeFi field, and we have a lot of users, the developers from the DeFi space that develop subgraphs. So that is really exciting to see. And regarding the hackathons, yeah, I think the ETH Global Hackathons, they do a really good job. Really great products come out of those particular hackathons, and we see some really interesting use cases of the graph from that as well. So even if Marcus, if you remember the one during the ETH Global Brussels, the winner team, what they did was make use of the NFC chip then and there. They thought of that, and so that is something, thinking out of the box and developing then and there. So that was pretty impressive.
That was very impressive. Yeah, that was the winning team. We had them on actually, I think it was 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago, and they shared, they saw the NFC chips right on the wrists, and they said the graph, and they started building right then and there, and that was really, truly inspirational to see such quick work and quick creativity. It was a lot of fun. That was a whole lot. So I remember went to Graph Day. I still remember this. Mac, I think I see you in the audience there. Mac brought out a MIDI synthesizer and was triggering a synthesizer from I think he was polling a subgraph using live polling with Graph Client and triggering music with a subgraph. And I was like, that, I don't know what that, how that happened, but that was always stuck in my mind. So yeah, for all those builders out there, there's always opportunities to find ways to convert data into more use cases. we can narrate it. So, well, Yash, I just want to thank you for your time. It's been really awesome having you on Graph Builder's office hours. And I'm going to let you have the last word here. If there's anything that you'd like to say to the audience in terms of what you'd like them to do, we got a lot of builders in the audience. So take it away if there's anything else you'd like to say or how they might reach you.
Yeah. So first thing is keep building subgraphs. We love to see you all with all of your innovations and everything. And if you face whether you face any kind of issues, do reach out to us. So most on Discord, Slack, not Slack, sorry. I mean Telegram or anywhere on socials. We are always there, pretty responsive. So looking forward to. I attend a lot of events globally, mainly the East Global ones. So if you're around, we have a bounty now at East Global Singapore. So that's really exciting. So if you guys are around, let's meet. Hit me up and yeah, keep building.
Awesome. And your Twitter, let me find it right here. I'll drop it in the chat so people can follow you. So give Yash a follow, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. Enjoy the rest of your day. And until next week, I've been Marcus. That's been Yash. And we'll see you next week at Graph Builder's Office Hours. Take care, everybody.